Hello and welcome to today's edition of The Exchange, brought to you by the New York Stock Exchange. As a reminder, today's interview is for informational purposes only. The NYC does not recommend investments or investment strategies. Now I'm live on the floor with Nichole Kramer. She's Vice President of ETF Operations and Distribution Services at SS&C Alps. Nichole, thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start at the beginning. Could you tell everyone a little bit more about the role that you play in the ETF ecosystem?
Sure. So with the ETFs, you have a regulatory distribution role and an active distribution role. I sit more firmly on the regulatory distribution role, which means that we have the oversight of all the creation and redemption process in the primary market. We're negotiating the authorized participant agreements on behalf of the trust, and then we're making sure that all the parties that execute that agreement adhere to the terms that are outlined in it, including the transfer agency and custodian. And that's really important to make sure that there's an efficient process. In addition, we are helping new entrants into the business with introductions to APs, to market makers, helping them decide which exchange to go to, and just helping them navigate the whole entire ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think that's where we tend to cross a lot of paths because we're working with a lot of new entrants as they're thinking about the markets. Now, one of the things that SS&C is focused on for a long time is education. You recently published a brand new ETF Whitepaper. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the major findings that are in there?
Sure. So one of the key major findings is the growth of the active ETFs. I mean, this has been the year of active for a while, but it was staggering to see some of the stats that we came up with. The fact that AUM is over 100% for several of those years. The number has increased dramatically from one year to the next, especially with the passing of the ETF rule. And then the last thing that we found was just the fact that there's a lot of conversions going on, whether it's mutual fund or an SMA to an ETF. There's a lot that happened when they started happening in 2021, and it continues to even happen today.
Yeah, and that road is sort of well paved at this point. If you're out there, you're thinking about converting, call Nichole, call me. Our teams would be happy to share with you. The pipeline forward is bigger than behind us.
Right.
So I want to hear a little bit more about this marketplace, right? I mean, we're standing on the floor. You can see some of the leftover of a giant IPO of Kava today. What are you seeing in terms of opportunities? Are there opportunities out there?
I think that there's still a lot of opportunities out there. You have the fact that you have single security, I say single security ETFs because you could have a single stock or you can have a single treasury year security. So I think a better term is single security. We have seen that defined outcome ETFs have weathered the chaos of the market quite well. So we're seeing more of those still. And then I think some of the bigger things that we're going to continue to see is more SMA and mutual fund to ETF conversions. And then what we're really paying attention to is when will the SEC finally approve the expansion of the underlying securities on the semi-transparent ETFs. I think that that's key for that to grow. And then the last thing is, will perpetual be successful in their exemptive application for active ETFs as a share class now that the patent has expired for Vanguard as a share class? I think that if they are successful, more firms for sure are going to file, and that's actually a really good thing for the ETF industry and the business. Plus, it's a way for companies to retain their clients and their assets. And as much as Bogle like to complain about ETFs, the structure has been very successful for Vanguard as a whole.
All music to my ears, standing here on the home of ETFs. Before we go, for someone who's out there, they're an asset manager, they're not working with SS&C today, but they're thinking about ETFs. How should they be engaging with you and your team?
Yeah, so the first thing to go to is www.ssctech, that's SSCTECH.com, and you'll be able to click on some different resources in there. If you want to get to the white paper, just scroll down to the bottom, click on the resources page, and type in Rise of the ETFs.
Perfect, Rise of the ETFs. Now, as a reminder, if you caught this episode live and you're looking for additional ETF thought leadership content, if you want to find links back to Nichole and her white paper, you can find it all on our website, etfcentral.com, all brought to you by none other than the New York Stock Exchange, the home of ETFs.